When a week goes by and we don't hear about Epstein, it drives us crazy because the fact that people just stop talking about this guy, the list, everybody cares about everybody else, and Trump, meanwhile, not one person from the Epstein's list has even been talked to or brought to light.
Right.
He had a favorite book. Can you please let us know what this book was?
So, to continue on the topic of blackmailing and how that plays a role in the maintaining of the Great Reset. Before we started the cameras, Monica was explaining how in DC, people get in with all these hopes and dreams, and then the men in suits approach them and they say, here's what's really going on. We have all this dirt on you. Here's dossiers explaining everything you've ever done that's bad, and you're going to follow our orders. So the king of all blackmail operations appears to have been Jeffrey Epstein. But we have to remember that the official narrative says that he was just a lone wolf, weird guy who committed suicide because I guess he was sad that he went to jail. No one wanted him dead. He didn't have dirt on anyone else. It was just, you know, this weird thing that went on an island, just rich people being crazy, right? So there was an article in Mother Jones, of all places, a left-wing magazine, but journalists for them took the scans of Epstein's contact book, his little black book, they call it, of names of famous people he either knew or wanted to meet. There's a picture of the article there. By the way, I'm going to have a full write-up on this story on VT.com, so check that out tonight. So he called up everyone he could find in Epstein's book. A lot of them didn't even know him. A lot of them just said, like, oh, I don't want to talk. But he got someone to talk who was an actress from the 80s that met Epstein when he was pretty young and watched his rise all the way up through the echelons of power. And she says, she looked at her diary entries while talking to him on the phone, and she says that one day she asked him, Jeffrey, how come you have all these girls around you all the time? What's with the girls? And he said, if you want to understand my life, you have to read a book. This book, it's called, and there's a picture of it on screen. The Man From O.R.G.Y. O.R.G. It's a organization that he works for. He doesn't reveal what the O.R.G.Y. stands for till the end, and it stands for the Organization for the Rational Guidance of Youth.
What?
He is a sex researcher who is traveling the Middle East, investigating and documenting for academic purposes. He says, with a juicy grant from one of those American foundations, I was playing Kinsey, studying sex, and he gets abducted by the U.S. government, and they bring him into a plot for him to become a double agent and work for the Soviets so that he can track down a woman who's being sexually trafficked through the harems of Asia, who has the secrets of how to build an atom bomb to prevent the Chinese from getting the atom bomb.
Damn.
So it's a spy thriller, James Bond kind of knockoff, but it's full of the most grotesque sexual scenes you can imagine. There's child brothels. I actually purchased it online.
You're on the list. You know you're on a different list. You're on a different list right now.
It's so messed up. There's child brothels. There's abductions, trafficking, rapes, gang rapes, and Epstein thought this was a funny book, and he told her explicitly, this is the book that convinced him he wanted to become wealthy.
What the hell?
And so when you read this book and you learn that it's literally a spy who is a pervert and he's doing all this stuff to get blackmail on figuring out how to, help the U.S. Create a unipolar world. He goes on all these long rants about how it's great to have no borders and how cosmopolitanism and liberalism is the way to go. It's like a super liberal book too. When you realize that this was Epstein's favorite novel and that this is what convinced him that this is what inspired him to become wealthy and powerful, you have to ask, how could it possibly be how could the official narrative possibly be that he was not a spy and that this was not a blackmail ring? Also, this ex-friend of his said that she was almost certain he was a bounty hunter for corporations and possibly governments. Those are her words.
Wow.
So
that's almost like his guide to being Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, everything that you mentioned is 100% what like the narrative is out there. The fact that he had all these cameras set up, and that what an operation though. Imagine that, telling all these people, having all these relationships, come to this island, you're safe, nobody's there, and there were literally cameras. Apparently he had a control room the size of this wall that had cameras in every single.
She confirmed that. She said that's true. She said she saw it.
Wow.
And she saw the guy who's running it. And as I said to Rob previously, I think the big question with the whole Epstein saga is not who is implicated, because we pretty much know that already. And also those people were just collateral damage to a bigger plot. The real question is who was paying Epstein, who was ordering him to do this, and who was he working for, and to what end? And when you really look into, when you try to find who wrote this book, it's a pseudonym for a guy who there's barely anything about him, and he just wrote tons of books about 20th century history. He was a publisher at a bunch of different publishing houses in New York. He worked for Warner Brothers for a minute, and then strangely he was also a teacher and wrote basically like sex ed books for kids. He wrote a book on pornography, explaining it to children for a high school audience. Ted Mark, but his real name's Theodore Mark Gottfried is his real name. But I could barely find anything about him. So it's like, who wrote this book, and how did Epstein even find this book?
Did you guys?
I ordered this on Abe Books. It's like where you get free
not Amazon.
cheap books. No, not Amazon.
They would not have
it's a used book. Like, it's out of print. So it's just very shady.
I'm intrigued. I actually want to read.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep it around the office.
What do you think about this whole Epstein and?
I know. So I guess Epstein didn't want to be James Bond. Like most guys want to be James Bond with the gorgeous ladies and the Aston Martin and the tux. He wanted to be this character, right? Apparently. I don't know about you guys, but and maybe this is just my naivete over many years, but like, because crimes against children are so particularly heinous and horrifying, I always assumed that they were really rare, right? Like one sicko, you know, in the depths of Chicago with having kids tied up in the basement. And then you'd hear about it and they'd make a movie about it. And it was like Silence of the Lambs kind of thing. But now, after Epstein and all this other stuff that we're hearing, crimes against children, especially like raping children, child trafficking, it's a lot more prevalent than certainly I thought. And I don't know about you guys, but it's everywhere. And then when you add on like a character like Epstein, and again, we don't know who he was working for, how he was making his money, how he was getting paid. But man, you know, you start to hear some of these theories that he was working for the CIA, Mossad, or maybe both, and playing them off of each other, or whatever, or that he was gun running, you know, that he was dabbling in weapons, selling weapons around the world. I don't know any of this, but it does open a door to what we started our conversation with, which is what these globalists and deep state shadowy characters that are completely unaccountable, they're faceless, we have no idea who they are. They're doing this kind of stuff.
100%.
We know about Epstein, but how many thousands of other characters like this are doing exactly this, and we have no idea who they are.
And instead of an island, it's somebody's house with trap doors and shit. Because, mind you, I think it was just during Biden's administration with Alejandro Mayorkas behind the wheel. I think 85,000 children. I'm going to say that number again so people picture 85,000 children in a stadium.
Football stadium.
What is it?
Yeah, football stadium.
A football stadium. 85,000, and they're gone. They're missing. Monica, it's not like there's a dead body here. We found the part, her clothing. No. They're gone, and when it comes to these elites, that's why they, besides the border, I mentioned it earlier, they want all these people to destroy the country, they want all these votes, they want all the fentanyl and drugs to kill us. These kids, it's a constant surplus supply of kids that go missing to feed into whatever they want. Sexual things, sex trafficking, it's big billion-dollar business. So when people try to play this whole naive game of, like, you nailed it, we don't know, it's not that, now it's more prevalent than ever. Because explain to me where they are. Show me where just show me where 10,000 are. And I'll start to listen to your story, and I'm going to go to you after.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Shane.
I was going to say, to your point that it's a big business, think about how Epstein went from being a high school teacher at an all-girls school. Weird. He went from being a high school teacher to having a 10-floor apartment on the Upper East Side, a private island, and multiple residences throughout the country. West Palm Beach. I mean, and everyone who came into contact with him like the scientists at Harvard said he wasn't particularly bright. So how did he become so rich?
Actually, I want
so
to take
rich?
issue with that because I know people in New York City who knew him, who invested with him, who gave him tons of money. He was actually brilliant.
Really?
Brilliant. Like he had a mind for numbers, for investing, for tax law. That's why like big guys like Leon Black, billionaires, would give him like big chunks of money and say, go invest it, get it around the tax laws legally, etc. No, he was, I don't know about other stuff, but on this kind of stuff, financial matters, investing, he was absolutely brilliant.
But do you think a lot of that had to do with the fact that he had incriminating evidence on these people, like, and told them, like, hey, listen, who was the gentleman they said, Leon Black?
Leon Black.
Leon Black. Hey, Leon, guess what? Remember that party that you were at? Remember that party? By the way, that's you with a 15-year-old. Invest, and I don't put it past you. He might have been brilliant.
That could very well be, but the returns were there.
Yeah, for sure.
So maybe he extorted them to invest.
Maybe
with
he had
him.
on the other end
information.
He knew where to
huge,
put the money.
Huge
to make it.
returns
Yeah.
on these people's investments. So that was real.
Yeah, 100%.
It wasn't like Bernie Madoff who was faking the
yeah.
returns and that sort of thing.
That's come back. But dude, go ahead, Brendan.
Yeah, you know what's interesting about this is things like when The Sound of Freedom came out, why was it that all the establishment places shut it down, wouldn't play it? And then, like, we talked about, like, if they want to amplify something, it's no mystery. You hear about it in the news all the time, but when they want to squash something, you don't hear about it at all. And when people actually try to talk about it, they suppress it. So, like, why is it that it's something that's objectively bad and evil, but it's, like, objectively also being suppressed by the establishment outlets?
Actively.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point because I remember that. It's like, wait a minute, they were bashing it. What? There were some reporters.
Yeah, they're calling like a far right extremist, like was it QAnon type of thing?
Far right, and let's not pretend we live in a society now where even the AI, the Gemini thing, they're saying that pedophilia. It's not a really bad. The person's
they're
born.
slow walking
That's
that.
their sexual preference, and it's minor attracted person. If that doesn't prove to you that evil is literally entrenched in everything that's happening in our society, foreign and here, everywhere. It's just the sexualization of these children, and they're trying to groom them, and all how many videos are you going to see where parents are fighting the school board to say, hey, listen, this is pornography. This kid we're talking about children. And the other side is like, well, it's art. What do you mean? This person in the book was raped, and there's dildos, and there's sodomy, but
it's like the rules for radicals thing. It's like they leached onto the liberal, like the far side of the liberal party to like slow walk all this stuff in because they know that they could like push the trans stuff and all the pedophile stuff if they do it the right way because of the way that far left side is wired.
Big time.
So it's not the majority of them at all, but it's like a very like slow, deceptive thing they're doing over the course of the last 10 years.
Ugh, I hope.
It's cultural Marxism.
Big time.
Okay, so the point of Marxism, well, there are many points, but when it comes to the family, they have to destroy the nuclear family, separate children from their parents, make them distrust the parents so that they won't confide in them, bust it up and then indoctrinate the kids. So whether it's drag shows for kindergarten kids, the pornography, and by the way, when the parents show up to these, town meetings or the school board meetings, and they're trying to actually read the pornography,
they won't let them.
So it's good enough for your kids to read in the school library, but not, it's too crazy to read in public. It is, but understand it's all part of this Marxist revolution that's going on, and it is a spiritual war. Evil is real.
Yep.